Welcome to today's episode. Today I want to share with you on a super important topic, and that is, are you really living from love or actually from fear? It might sound obvious or simple to just say, yeah, of course I live from love, I live from my heart. That's all easy to say, and it might be true some of the time. But I found it to be one of the most profound shifts in my life when I actually realized how to be aware in the moment whether I'm coming from love or from fear. With my actions, my words, how I'm responding to people and events. And also, just as profound, am I really boldly stepping forward in my life, stepping towards my vision, or am I actually playing small, being held back by my fear and actually not stepping up? Do you want to experience the full potential of your sexual energy, deep intimacy in your relationship, and how it feels like to truly be in your power as a man? Can you hear the world's desperate calling for conscious, heart-centered men to rise to the occasion? Then welcome to the Heart of a King podcast, where you will find the clarity, guidance, and tools that will empower you to do what it truly takes to live a life of freedom, fulfillment, and bliss. Even though this might sound like such a simple and obvious concept, it really changed my life when this first came to me in such a deep and clear way. When I was in the jungles of Peru on an ayahuasca journey and was shown how important this is and how this actually dictates the course of our lives and relationships in so many ways. And more recently, I'm experiencing a really profound shift, integrating and realizing this on an even deeper level. One of the most powerful things about this was the simplicity of it. To be really clear that there's not a million different places you're actually coming from in the moment, you can simplify it down towards whether it's coming from love or from fear. Of course, you could break it down into a more complex system of saying, okay, this is coming from your conditioning, from your childhood wounding and whatever, but in the moment is actually, is it an expansion in your heart that you're coming from? Is it this warm, light, expansive feeling of love? Or is it actually coming from a contraction in your body, from a closeness of your heart, of your mind? Definitely stick around till the end of the podcast, as I'm gonna be sharing a technique of how to turn this around in the moment. And let's be honest, there's nothing more easy these days in the world to actually fall into living from fear. Whether it's if you're believing the official narrative of what's happening in the world at the moment, or you're one of the people looking behind the curtains and getting caught up in the fear around that, neither of that is actually serving us, in my opinion, and it's both contributing to a state of fear and also living from that space. And it's completely human to feel fear, and it's fine. It's just an emotion, it's just a sensation that's flowing through the body. As long as we don't make up a story around it or believe a story that might already be there and get caught up in a loop of just repeating that story and getting stuck in a pattern of fear, which also is human, and I sometimes still catch myself being there as well. But we do have the power to turn this around and to not be controlled by that fear and to live from there. For a moment, let's look at what fear actually is, especially in relation to love. The favorite acronym I've heard for fear is false evidence appearing real. And that's about exactly what it is. I'm not talking, of course, about, let's say, a healthy response in the body when you're actually confronted with a life-threatening situation which puts you in an alert state to deal with it. But I'm talking about the 99% that most of us are dealing with these days, the fear that is in our minds and that is self-created. It happens when our perception of a situation or our perspective is not aligned with the perspective of our, call it, higher self or soul. When it is a distorted perception of what's actually happening, an exaggerated response from a trigger or a whole sequence of worst case scenarios visualized in the mind of what all could go wrong and how horrible that would be, but it's not real. Our mind just can't distinguish whether we're actually experiencing or just visualizing or thinking about it. And therefore, through the brain, the nervous system, and the glands, it creates a chemical reaction in the body that is soon turning into felt sensations and contraction. Also, at this stage, we still have the choice. When it's already a felt sensation in the body, we have the choice whether we react to it, we get scared of the fear basically, and that can build up until you experience like serious sweaty hands, or even build up into a panic attack when your system really starts freaking out about an imagined scenario. Or we can consciously respond by giving these sensations the loving, non-judgmental awareness and presence they need, and just feel them without repeating a story about them in our minds. Not saying that this is necessarily easy to do in the beginning. It's a true mastery in my opinion. And it's what some call equanimity, meeting these sensations in our body with objective observation and just love, instead of avoiding them or being scared of them. We all do have the power to meet all of these sensations, might they feel that traumatic or dramatic. Our souls, our awareness has the power to hold it, to observe it, to feel it, and to just allow it to move through, instead of getting stuck and imprisoning ourselves by suppressing our emotions and disconnecting from our hearts. So much about fear. But what about love? Compared to fear, and in general love, I see as being the essence of our being, what we're actually made of, and what actually is the highest truth of our being. True, divine, unconditional love is also the natural way of being for us. Which brings me to another benefit of actually living from love rather than fear. Of course, there's countless, and it's basically the most profound shift you can do in your life. One of the most amazing things about this is that you are actually being guided super accurately, more than the mind could ever do, by the divine, by your soul, by your higher self, when you are connected with your heart and you are moving from that place of love, when you let love guide you and let love literally move you and be the state that you're making your important life decisions from. I've been guided to the most magical experiences and meeting the most amazing human beings by courageously stepping forward from my heart. And of course, especially in the past, I've experienced also what happens when I make decisions from fear, where you end up then, which might be more of a learning experience. And what is even more profound, I find, especially in the moment, is what this internal shift does in our relationships. Because it can seem, yeah, of course I'm coming from love because I love this person, but actually in the moment, because of our fears, our triggers, our traumas, our wounding, it's very common to actually act from fear in the moment rather than truly from love. And once we turn this around, become aware of it in the moment, and especially also take care that we first love ourselves, which for that, I highly recommend you check out the podcast episode called Why Self-Love Has to Be Mastered First. But if we master this in our intimate relationships, it causes the most profound shift, because actually the other person is much more able to receive our love, and is much more enjoyable to receive something when it's coming from a place that is full from our self-love, but is actually coming from a pure, loving place of non-attachment and unconditional love, rather than something that is disguised as love, or maybe even thought to be love, but actually is coming from fear. Of like, oh no, I don't want to hurt them, I don't want to trigger them, I want to please them, all kinds of different things. And also that is completely human. It is a constant state of evolution to shift into more and more coming from this pure place of love, even when we feel triggered. To not unconsciously act from that fearful space, but to catch ourselves in the moment and to stay grounded, or if necessary to step away, get centered and grounded again, and consciously check back in with our hearts. Where are we coming from? Am I acting out of a contracted fear response, or am I actually centered and have my heart open, courageously acting from love? This whole thing is a true mastery, and I highly, highly encourage you to check yourself. Where are you coming from in the moment? Are you seeing patterns in your life where you might actually be coming from fear? And as promised, I want to share with you an exercise that you can do on how you can turn this around in the moment. First of all, check yourself whenever you start feeling that might not be love where you're coming from. When you're feeling this contraction in your chest or your belly, or you feel triggered by someone or something, to really stop and ask yourself, where am I really coming from right now? Where am I acting or speaking from? Is it a contraction in my system, some sort of fear? Or is it an expansiveness and openness of heart, or a heartfelt boldness and courage in facing a situation? This is the first step, and you can literally practice this with anything. You can do it with your big life decisions, but you can also do it in your everyday life when you're meeting people or even when you're by yourself. The next step is how to actually turn it around within yourself. I want to add, if there's a situation that has a lot of momentum, when you see your mind's racing or your body is like shaking from the fear or super contracted, if you have the opportunity to step away, which I would highly recommend in that moment, you can break that cycle by interrupting it with getting back into your body. You can do, for example, cold shower. You can do some breath work. I highly recommend Wim Hof method for that as well. Or to find your own way to just in a healthy way stop the tracks of your mind and get back into your body, into the moment. But if it's more a subtle situation or you catch it right in the beginning, then you can go ahead with this process right away. And for that, ideally, you would sit down, close your eyes, but you could also try to basically do it in the moment right where you're at. Wherever you're at, your first key back into your power is your breath. Usually when you check in with your breath whilst you're in a fearful state or anxious, the breath often gets very shallow and sometimes we even hold our breath. So either right where you're at, you just deepen your breathing and steady it. Or ideally, let's say you've been sitting down, you're closing your eyes, and you're taking conscious, deep breath in your belly, and you're exhaling with a sigh if you want, and you're letting your exhales be a bit longer than your inhales to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Take another deep inhale into your belly from your nostrils. Exhaling through the mouth. You can allow a sigh or sounds. One more. That already starts settling you in, calming your nervous system. And then you can start checking in with the sensation of the fear in your body. You can be like, okay, where am I feeling the sensation of fear in my body? Is it a tight chest, or maybe you even feel a sensation in your tailbone, in your root chakra? Maybe you're clenching your jaw or tightening your hands. And then to just observe that without judging it, allowing it to be. And then you can literally look that fear that is just a sensation in your body based on a self-created illusion in your mind. You can look that fear straight in the eyes with your awareness, and you can literally speak right to it. You can be like, I see you. I feel you. I'm not afraid of you. I don't believe you. Because the fear is definitely not a good guide, and it will say all kinds of things to you and tell you that it's so scary and you should look away from it. Look it in the eye and see it for what it really is, an illusion. And throughout this process, you stay connected with your deep belly breath, and you can feel how you're not fighting the fear, but you're literally just sending it loving kindness and your non-judgmental presence whilst you're breathing. Just stroking these sensations like a little baby with your loving awareness without trying to change them. And to really shift this within yourself, you can intend to drop all of the story about it. Literally dropping it into the earth. And you can choose to shift your perspective from this negative illusion into the true beauty of the experience of what's actually here, of what your soul can see, of what your fear might not be able to see, but your soul can see. And most of all, feel. And to really connect to that feeling of love in midst of the fear, you can, if you have a divine mantra you're working with, you can literally drop your awareness in your heart and repeat that mantra. But if that's not the case, literally just drop your awareness in your heart as best you can and remember someone that you dearly love with all your heart, or remember some of the most beautiful heart-opening moments in your life that will help you reactivate that felt sensation of love in your body, and you can sense it. And once you start sensing that lightness, that light, that openness, that warmth within your heart or in your whole system, you can breathe that and guide it with your awareness wherever you want in your system and send loving kindness towards that fear, that contraction. And that can be a pretty immediate shift, or you might have to sit a bit longer with it in meditation until you actually turn it around. And then you're ready to meet the world, to meet your partner, to meet whoever or whatever you are confronted with love, from that courageous strength within your heart that will guide you towards doing what's in the highest good for you and others. From my heart, I really encourage you to try this out and implement this concept in your life. It has the potential to truly make you a pillar of light for everyone around you and literally magnificently turn your own life around. And in my own opinion, this is one of the most important practices for us to truly become a warrior of the light and not someone that is still unconsciously living from fear most of the time. Which, no blame, I've done a lot of that in the past as well, but once we have the awareness of that, it is so incredibly powerful to use our awareness and our power of choice to literally turn things like this around in the moment, or even when you're about to make big decisions in your life. I hope you get a lot out of this episode, and this concept can truly be life-changing, so it's worth taking it seriously. Not saying you have to be serious all the time, you can have fun with this. You can see that all these fears and illusions are just little farts in your brain, but they do have to be met with presence, and it has to be made sure that they don't run your life or control your actions, but that you are actually doing that, you as your soul. Thank you for joining us for the Heart of a King podcast. Make sure to follow the podcast and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any new episodes and interviews coming out every week.